you did an interview with, was she a former model, Louise Glover?
Yes. Yeah, a former Playboy model, actually, believe it or not. Beautiful, beautiful woman, still today and still and was then. Yeah, really shocking. I actually met Louise in the green room in the studio and just assumed she was on to talk about something fashion, actually, because she's so well dressed, so beautiful. And when I started talking to her, I was like, why are you here? She goes, oh, well, I'm homeless. And I was like, what? Because she didn't have any stereotype about her whatsoever. And of course, I'm looking for a homeless person. I'm not looking for anything that is Louise Glover. And her story really hit a chord with me. And I wanted to bring her back on to the show, so I brought her back on. I said, tell us about your experience being homeless. How did this happen to you? Obviously, there is, for one Louise Glover, there's hundreds of thousands more people who are homeless now, tens of thousands, should I say, at least. And it's a growing problem. We've got ex-Marines, ex-British troops on our streets. We just don't bother with them. And what struck me about her is that despite her looking so glamorous, and obviously that will really mess with some people's heads because they just have a stereotype of homelessness, was that she's been trying to get help for so long from the government, from her council, from the government, and they're just shrugging their shoulders. You're not a priority to us. And the bombshell interview that I did with her, and she didn't tell me this before we went on air, so we didn't know she was going to say this. She was saying, let me tell my story. And then we said, okay, go for it. And she said she went into her local council to get help. And she was pointed somewhere here or there. I can't quite remember the intricacies of the story. But basically, she was in a waiting room with other people wanting to be address social housing. And someone came out and they spoke to the entire room in Arabic or some foreign language. It could have been anywhere else. What? In the UK?
It's astounding.
This is another problem. Is that we're paying for interpreters, translators, everything else to appease a group of people who have come to the country. Not all of them are obviously just coming to seek benefits, but I would say there's a lot of them that have done. And they're being addressed not in English because they don't have to learn. Don't bother. They'll speak to you in Arabic. They'll speak to you in your foreign language. Don't worry about it. What's the point integrating when you have no reason to? Because the government and the local councils say, actually, we're just going to pay for a translator.
It makes me think just now about that guy Nihal something. Do you know the BBC presenter? He's a BBC radio.
Yeah, I recognise the name.
He's got I think it was him. Yeah. Sanganathan, I want to say. He was complaining about being the only brown person or one of only 2 or 3 brown people.
Oh yes, I don't know his name, but I know exactly the story you're talking about.
Yeah, at the BBC, and it's mad because whenever I've been somewhere, I'm the only Jew or I'm the only tall person or I'm for fuck's sake, Yeah. But how alienating for Louise Glover in her own country, going for benefits, they're homeless. And not even be able to understand what we're saying in her own country. That is who we should feel for. She
didn't even get a member of the authority to translate it. It was one of the other possibly foreigners in the room who translated it from what the Arabic language was to English, right? It's almost discriminatory against the native people of this country. Well, it is actually. It's discriminatory. It's putting them last, saying you're not even worth me saying this in English because what it says is that people going for social housing aren't English people. And 2, that you will be at the bottom of the queue if you're, because when she did get to speak to somebody, they said, you're not a priority to us, right? You're not a refugee. You're not a mother. You're not someone who we think has fallen hard enough yet. Christ, this is Britain. I think, and Rishi Sunak was going to have a very good policy that was going to prioritise British citizens for housing first. That should be a priority to us. We should be looking after our own at the bare minimum. If you can't afford to live here and you've hit hard times, America has a pretty strict rule. Sorry, go home.
Is that what they do in America?
Yes.
If you can't afford,
yes. Yes. There's no grace. You're out. You can't pay your taxes. You're home. Go.
Do they
haven't got a job? Go.
They presumably pay for the flights, the American.
I think they probably would have to if you can't afford it, but they will deport you. Yes.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, look, it is different for me, and I know if any woke people listening will be going, hang on, mate, you're from this posh, privileged or whatever background. Yeah. But I lived in several different countries. I was always aware I was an immigrant. I was aware I was on somebody else's culture. Yeah. I knew to learn their languages, and I also knew it was going to be much harder for me to find work in those countries than it would be for the native people. The idea that I would go and live in Argentina or France and they would favour me, or Colombia, that I would be favoured ahead of the local population. They'd be up in arms. They'd be burning my house down.
Of course, And this is, again, part of it is you go anywhere else in the world, you wouldn't expect that. And they don't do it for you, right? So that's the reality. We have just become you might as well put an advertisement on the White Cliffs of Dover. You might as well say, come here, we'll put you at the top of the queue for everything. And I know there's many people on the left that go, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. But it's becoming more and more of the truth en masse. That's even if it's 10%, it's 10% too much. 1% too much.
How's Louise now? Is she searching for housing still?
Yes, she is. I'm working on a fundraiser with her at the moment. So she's going to raise a bit of money. She wants to get a boat, so she can do that up and live on that. So something to at least in the short term while she gets back on her feet to give her some shelter. Thankfully, it's been a warm spring, but she's been sleeping in a tent, making do wherever she can, friends, family. But, she's struggling massively. I want to help her. And I said, we'll do everything we can.
We'll put a link in this for the fundraiser.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
So people can click on that.